All right, let's dive into probably the most amazing and complicated organization on the entire planet, your brain. We're going to take a tour of the four big players, the major lobes, that basically run the show for every single thought, feeling, and action you've ever had. I mean, seriously, just stop and think about that for a second. You see your coffee cup, you decide you want some, your arm reaches out, your hand shapes itself perfectly around the handle, you lift it, and you don't even spill. It feels so simple, right? But behind the scenes, it's this massive symphony of planning, feeling, and moving. So, who's the conductor? Well, here's the twist. There isn't just one conductor. It's not a one-person show. Your brain is way more like a high-powered company with a whole C-suite of executives. Each one has a very specific job, and they're all working together. And today, we're getting the all-access pass. So here's our game plan. First, we'll meet the whole executive team. Then we'll get some one-on-one time with the CEO, the COO, the CCO, and the CDO. And to wrap it all up, we're going to sit in on an all-hands meeting to see how they pull it all together for the big projects. So this executive team, they all have their offices in what we call the cerebral hemispheres. And they're divided up into these four main power centers, the lobes. Think of each one as a top executive with a title and a job description that is absolutely essential for running the company of you. Every company has a leader, right? The one who sets the vision, calls the shots, and makes the big decisions. Well, in the brain, that job falls to our chief executive officer. And here it is. Meet the frontal lobe, the CEO of your brain. It's sitting right behind your forehead, and this is where all the planning happens. It's your personality, and maybe most important of all, it's the center for action. And it's no coincidence that its main job is called executive function. I mean, the name says it all. This is the ultimate C-suite skill set. We're talking about your ability to make good judgments, to plan ahead, to control your social behavior, to basically weigh the consequences of your actions. It's that little voice that stops you from making a really bad decision. But you know, a brilliant strategy is just a daydream if you can't actually execute it. And this is where the frontal lobe really earns that CEO title. It doesn't just sit around making plans. It puts them into motion by directly controlling your voluntary muscles. Now, if we zoom into the CEO's office, there's this super important department. Neuroanatomists call it Brodmann Area 4. For us, we'll call it the primary motor cortex. This is command central. This is the spot that sends the final go signal down your spinal cord, telling your body to move. And check this out. This is how that control is organized. It's called the motor homunculus. And yeah, it looks pretty strange. But this isn't a map of your body's size, it's a map of its motor precision. See how enormous the hands and lips are? That's because they need an incredible amount of fine motor skill for things like talking or using your phone. This map is so accurate, it actually helps doctors figure out where a stroke has occurred. If it's in the middle cerebral artery, or MCA, it often affects the side of the map, your face and arms. But an ACA stroke, that tends to hit the middle, affecting the legs. So the CEO's office has these very specialized departments. We just met Brodmann Area 4, the Department of Movement, but right next door, you've got Brodmann Areas 44 and 45. You've probably heard of this as Broca's area. This is the Department of Speech Production, the incredibly complex motor plan that lets you actually form words. Okay, next up on the tour, let's meet the Chief Operating Officer, the parietal lobe. Now, a good COO has to manage all the real-time data to keep the whole operation running without a hitch. They have to know exactly what's happening on the ground right now. And that's exactly what the parietal lobe does. Its main gig is generating spatial awareness. It's constantly answering those crucial questions. Where am I? Where are my arms and legs? Where is my coffee cup in relation to my hand? This job is especially handled by the non-dominant hemisphere, which for most people is the right side. And if there's damage here, you can get this really bizarre condition called contralateral neglect, where a person might completely ignore one half of their entire world.
So how does it build this incredible live map? Well, it's integrating a constant, massive stream of data from your body. Everything: touch, temperature, pain, and something called proprioception, which is your sense of where your limbs are without even looking. It all funnels into what's called the primary somatosensory cortex. It's basically the company's live data dashboard.
All right, let's head over to meet the Chief Communications Officer, the temporal lobe. You'll find this executive on the sides of your head right by your ears. And while it's in charge of all things auditory, its job is way deeper than just hearing. The temporal lobe is the hub for auditory processing. So yes, it has the cortex that registers sound. But, and this is crucial, in your dominant hemisphere, it also has Wernicke's area. That's the department for language comprehension. It's the difference between hearing sounds and actually understanding what someone is saying to you.
And that brings us to our final executive, the Chief Design Officer, the occipital lobe. It's tucked away at the very back of the brain, and the CDO has one and only one all-consuming obsession: vision.
I mean, this entire lobe is pretty much one hyper-specialized department for visual processing. The main hub here is Brodmann Area 17, the primary visual cortex, and it does one thing. It receives raw data from the eyes. From there, it starts the amazing process of turning patterns of light and dark into the rich, coherent images that we see.
Okay, so we've met all the executives. But let's be real. A company where all the bosses stay in their own corner offices is a company that's going to fail. The real magic, the thing that makes it all work, happens in the all-hands meetings, when these lobes collaborate.
And you know, there is no better example of this teamwork than language. Think about it. To have a simple conversation, you need a perfect, high-speed connection between your CCO, the temporal lobe that understands what you just heard, and your CEO, the frontal lobe that figures out a reply and tells your mouth how to say it. This slide shows so clearly what happens when that teamwork breaks down. A stroke in the frontal lobe, in the CEO's office, can cause something called Broca's aphasia. The person knows exactly what they want to say. Their comprehension is totally fine, but they just can't get the words out. It's incredibly frustrating. Now, contrast that with a stroke in the temporal lobe, in the CCO's office, which causes Wernicke's aphasia. Here, the person can speak fluently, but because comprehension is broken, the words are just meaningless, a word salad. And the really tragic part is, they're often completely unaware that anything is wrong. So let's do a quick roll call of our C-suite. You've got the CEO, your frontal lobe, who plans, decides, and acts. The COO, your parietal lobe, senses and maps your place in the world. The CCO, your temporal lobe, hears and understands. And finally, the CDO, your occipital lobe, sees and interprets. It's one heck of a team, running an unbelievably complex operation. And all of this brings us to one final and kind of mind-bending question. If your brain is just this team of executives, this committee of lobes that are processing data and making decisions and carrying out plans, all without you consciously telling them to, then who or what is the you that's experiencing it all? It's a question that takes us right out of brain anatomy and straight into the mystery of consciousness itself. Definitely something to think about.